Hello, students, and hello to anyone else out there who maybe is not a student. This is an overview of Nielsen television ratings. All right, I'm going to try and break down some of the information that is often presented, especially in industry trade journals. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. I didn't realize that CBS television has an entire night of Chicago programming, but so be it. Okay, on Wednesday night of this particular week, Chicago Med got 7.2 million viewers, making it the most watched show in terms of total number of viewers. Okay, there's a distinction. But in terms of total number of viewers, Chicago Med got 7.2 million viewers, or a 0.91 rating in individuals aged 18 to 49. This means of every individual aged 18 to 49 in the United States who has access to a television, okay, that's key. That is not everyone, but that's the bulk of the population. Of individuals aged 18 to 49, of that population, 0.91%. A rating is a percentage. 0.91% watched some or all of Chicago Med. First off, why are we talking about 18 to 49? 18 to 49 is a key demographic for advertisers. Viewers under the age of 18 are presumed to have limited income. Okay, 18 to 49. People over the age of 49 are presumed to already have brand loyalties. Okay, by the time you reach that age and are no longer in the prime demographic, you know what kind of jeans you like, what kind of shoes you like, what kind of car you like, etc., etc., etc. Now, I do think it's a bit odd that the cutoff is 49 because presumably people over the age of 49 have more income than the people in the sort of lower range of that demographic. But that is basically what advertisers want to go for. They want to go for people aged 18 to 49. Women are especially important because the presumption is that women control the purchasing of a household. Maybe this is an old fashioned gendered stereotype. I agree, but that is still a driving concept that women control the purchasing of a household. And 18 to 34 is also a desirable demographic. The idea here is that if you can get something popular or trending within the younger 18 to 34, then the people over the age of 34 want to pretend they're young, they want to act like they're young, so they'll sort of follow what the younger people are doing. Here are some basic definitions, very basic definitions. A rating is a percent. At its most basic level, it is a percent of television households. Okay. Now, Nielsen, the company that generates these ratings, assumes that anyone who has access to a television signal is going to be considered a television household. What that means is, even if you do not have a traditional television, now they're all big flat screen TVs, even if you don't have something like that, you probably have a computer or a laptop or maybe a smartphone that has internet access. You can get a television signal that way. So, most American homes are considered part of this population. So a rating is a percent of television households. However, it can also be a percent of people if it is specified. Okay, so if the Hollywood Reporter says American Idol got a 4, that means a 4% of television households. If Hollywood Reporter says American Idol got a 4 in 18 to 49, that 18 to 49 lets you know that we are now talking about people. So it is 4% of the people in that age range. That is the distinction. And just to make things even a little bit more complicated, there is the concept of a share. This is a percent of television households exposed to a program. However, in the sample that we're using, we are excluding anyone who was not watching television at that given time period. Here is a graphic. What is the rating for channel 2? In this particular image, we have 3 households. They look like little Monopoly homes, don't they? We have 3 homes watching channel 2. That's 3 out of 10. The rating would be 30. Exactly the same graphic. You have the same information. We are now excluding these 4 homes, the ones that are black, because these individuals are doing something else. Okay, maybe they're out at the club, maybe they're out playing sports or out walking the dog. They're not watching TV. Of these six homes, three of them are watching channel 2. That would be a 50 share, 50%. What does all this stuff ultimately try and tell us? Well, the holy grail of audience metrics would be some type of device, such as a people meter. I will explain that in a few minutes, that tracks all media usage and product purchases. Ultimately, that's what the industry is going for. Okay. Ultimately, that is what the industry is going for. Some type of device that could measure what TV show, what film, what music did you listen to. Conceivably, it could even track print, right? What magazine did you pick up? They could read the barcode. What newspaper did you pick up? They could probably figure that out as well. And then match that up to what you are actually purchasing. Okay. If we had a system like this, which we do not have, but if we had a system like this, you would have such unbelievable granular data on consumers that the advertising industry and anyone who sells products would be enormously happy. For example, they could say, people who watch Friends, what's the likelihood they're going to buy my particular brand of toothpaste? Or people who watch Real Housewives, what's the likelihood that they're going to buy a vacation cruise to such and such place? Now, again, this kind of system doesn't exist. Uh, Probably it will never exist, but that's ultimately what all this is trying to get at. Okay. If we can try and match up exactly what people are consuming and then match it up with what they're purchasing, that's the kind of data we want. Now, where do the ratings come from? Okay. They come from samples. It is a small representative sample from the population. There's over 300 million people who could watch television in the United States. Maybe the number's like 330 million, something in that range. There's no way to poll or survey every 330 million people. But if you do uh, tens of thousands or 30,000 or 40,000 or 50,000 from that sample, then you could extrapolate and guesstimate essentially what the entire population is doing. Think about cooking, for example. If you're cooking a big bowl of soup or a big vat of soup and you want to see if it has enough salt, you don't have to drink the entire pot of soup to determine. You can take a small sample and you assume that that sample is going to represent what's going on with the entire big pot of soup. Nielsen started measuring media consumption way back in 1942. Okay, AC Nielsen saw a demonstration of this technology, realized what it could do, so he purchased this device and created something called the Autometer. Okay, started with only 800 homes. What they would do was they would install a machine connected to your radio receiver. As you tune the radio dial, it would move a needle and some ink and actually leave a marking on this piece of paper. Okay, kind of like those things that measure earthquakes. All right, so a technician comes to your house every week or every few weeks, something like that. They could take the piece of paper and quite literally tell what radio stations you had tuned to because there was a visual indication of it. Okay. They also knew how many people who lived in the home. And this, I think this point is very interesting. The technician could also go through the products in your home, look through the kitchen pantry. This is called a pantry survey and see what you purchased. So remember what the ultimate goal of audience measurement is. Okay, it's to match up media consumption with product purchasing. It's pretty amazing to me that at the very beginning, Nielsen had that model. Okay, here's a slide showing the evolution of the technology. Once television develops, the odometer is adapted to television. Same basic concept. As you tune your TV dial, you literally had to physically tune a TV back in the day. It would leave a paper trail. Now, in 1959, they come up with this device that connects the odometer to a telephone line. Now, information can be recorded and delivered overnight. Okay. Sometimes you might hear people talking about the overnight ratings. It goes back to this original model right here. A few decades later, Nielsen comes out with the people meter. Okay. Now, previously, when you were measuring what a radio receiver was tuned to or what a television receiver was tuned to, you kind of knew how many people were in the home, but you didn't know who was actually consuming that media product. So maybe you know that Amos and Andy was listened to, but was that the whole family? Who was that? The people meter is a fairly primitive technology, but here's the way it works. There's a receiver with a button. Everyone in the home has a button and everyone's assigned. You have to imagine not everyone is going to press a button every time they walk into a room or press a button every time they leave the room. But that's the general idea, is that now you can tell not only what a person is watching, but you can get an idea of like who was in the room. Now, I mentioned diary earlier, just to give you, this is what a paper diary looks like. It covers several days of viewing. You are literally supposed to fill it out, just write out what did you watch? What did you watch last night? Paper diaries are inexpensive. Okay. So paper diaries are very, very widely used in some areas because they're just so inexpensive. It's much cheaper than putting in an electronic device. However, you have to rely on response error or some type of bias coming from the viewer. Maybe a person is embarrassed about what they watch. I myself am a professor, I have a PhD. Do I want to admit that I watched guys' grocery games for 3 hours last night? No, I'm not going to put that in the paper diary. I might say I watched Frontline. I watched a documentary about on PBS about women's suffrage. You want to put something that, makes you look good. And then of course there's also just memory. I don't remember. I don't remember what I watched 3 days ago. I forgot to fill out the diary, and then I just go back and throw in some numbers and write some things down. This is what Nielsen is trying to go to now, something called the PPM, a portable people meter. Okay. If you don't know, or if you haven't already been exposed to this idea, it's a device. I used to say it's the size of a pager, but no one carries pagers anymore. It's smaller than a phone. Let's say that. Okay. It's smaller than a phone. You wear it on your device, you put it in your bag you're carrying, you could clip it on your belt, and it uses sound. Okay, there is a digital watermark that is inserted into all the programming. It works for radio, it works for TV. The human ear doesn't recognize it. You won't know that it's there, but that device will pick it up and it triggers something that says, hey, this person is watching Fox, this person is watching E News, or this person is listening to Z90. That information can then be transmitted wirelessly to some big supercomputer somewhere. Okay, now, the benefit of this is that you do not have to rely on memory. You don't have to remember, people don't have to remember to record what they listened to or what they watched. It's another benefit is that the PPM, it's attached to a particular person. So in my case, they would know, it's a white man of this age, and we know exactly who it was. There's no question of, oh, was that his partner? Was that his mother-in-law? Was that his son? Okay, here's some ratings. This is from March of 2020. NCIS is leading the rankings here with a 6.7. Now, we don't have the age range. We don't have 18 to 49. We don't have 18 to 34. So we know 6.7 is a household rating. Okay, 6.7% of households in the United States who have access to television watched NCIS, or at least enough of it to be counted. And then here we have the viewers over here. Okay, and that is in, add some extra zeros there. Now, CBS, at the time of this recording, CBS tends to get pretty big numbers in terms of total number of viewers. However, CBS has a rather CBS has the oldest average viewer. Okay, the average CBS viewer is in their 50s, for example. So when you look at demographic information, like we showed earlier in one of the first slides, the total number of viewers can be different than who won in the prime demographic. Okay, if more young people watch a show, the CW network really caters to the youth audience. If more young people watch a show can get a high rating in the demo of 18 to 49 or 18 to 34, but a different show can have the total number of viewers. And this is showing delayed viewing. DVR viewership and time shifted viewership is counted. Nielsen has been doing this for a number of years. Same day viewing that's what SD stands for. Same day viewing is anything that occurs within 24 hours. I believe. I may be slightly wrong on this, but same day, if you watch something, if you record it and watch it back at 1 o'clock in the morning, late at night, that can be same day. L means live, something you actually watch in actual live time. L plus 7 is 7 days of viewership added in. And then this chart shows the percentage increase. Here we have Jersey Shore Family Vacation did much better when you add in 7 days of viewing. Okay, when you add in 7 days of viewing, Jersey Shore more than doubled. Now, the one type of programming that never shows up on these time shifted charts is sports, because people watch sports when it happens. So sports programming is incredibly, incredibly valuable. And the cost to advertise in sports, or the cost of TV rights to carry a particular sporting league or a sporting conference, rises faster than inflation for that reason. Here is a fairly recent development, at least it's a recent development for me. For all these streaming services, which are also known as OTT, over the top, represents television video content that's delivered through high speed internet. It's not cable and it's not broadcast. It is OTT, over the top. With these streaming platforms, it is more difficult to determine actual viewership the way it was done with traditional television programming. So the metric that's being used now is number of minutes streamed. Okay. So this article right here from Hollywood Reporter is saying that Cobra Kai was the top in early January with 2.11 billion minutes worth of the show. So 2.11 billion minutes were streamed. How many people does that represent? That is a different metric. I'm sure Netflix has some convoluted way of trying to figure that out. But we're just looking now at total number of minutes streamed, and Cobra Kai surpassed Bridgerton. Okay. And then also of interest here is this Telemundo program was the first Spanish language program to crack the top 10, showing that Spanish language programming is popular and has been growing in popularity for a number of years. Overview, in conclusion, I know this is a lot of information. Ratings and shares are percentages, okay? If you're in my class, you should look at the notes and be aware of that. There's a very good chance you'll see some quiz or exam questions based on those concepts. The info comes from a sample of viewers, okay? We do not poll or survey or check in with every single person in the United States to see what they're watching. We take a sample and then extrapolate from that. Some of the information comes from electronic devices, including the PPM device, which I talked about earlier. Some of the information still comes from paper diaries. Paper diaries are inexpensive, and despite their many flaws, they are still used. And streaming platforms measure total minutes viewed. They do not measure viewers. Okay, that concludes my lecture on TV ratings explained. Hopefully, you learned a little something from it. Now, signing off.